All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Studio 44 and our show Underdogz. Today, I have a very special guest. I can't wait to learn more about his story, about his philanthropy, and about his life. Today, I've got Dr. Jeff with Regen Ocala. Dr. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, it's been just a very short period of kind of reconnecting and getting to know more of your story and more about you. Today, we're really going to dive deep. So we're going to go all the way back, okay? Like way back.
Okay.
Back in the day. And I mean, it's Tuesday, but back in the day. Let's talk about where you're from. Where were you born?
I was born and raised in a tiny little town in northwestern Pennsylvania called Ridgeway. It's the county seat of Elk County. Elk County is kind of interesting. It has the only natural elk herd east of the Mississippi River, which is kind of interesting to grow up in that. And our school mascot was actually the Elkers. And then the girls now are called the Lady Elkers, but back in the day they were called the Elkerettes.
The Elkers and the Elkerettes.
Yeah.
How original.
Yeah.
And so growing up in that area, what was some of the fun stuff as a child? Like, what was there to do?
Not a lot. It was, cruising the loop in your car on, Friday and Saturday nights. There really wasn't a lot. I mean, there was a skating rink, which was, I don't know, probably 20 miles away. There was a McDonald's about 12 miles away. But there was not a lot going on. Obviously, it was rural, so hunting and fishing and beer parties out in the woods with a bonfire, but really not.
It's like the definition of every country song.
It kind of is. Yeah, it kind of is.
Well, that's cool. Now, growing up, did you do any type of sports? What were you into as a child?
I played football, played high school football, and was involved in our theater program. So I was one of those weird guys. Actually, a really weird guy, because I played high school football, so I had that crowd. I was with the theater program, so I had that crowd. And then my brother actually owned one of the biggest service stations in town, and he was a mechanic. So I worked there on days off and things when I didn't have other school events. And so I kind of got associated with the Motorhead guys too. And so I kind of fit in wherever I could go. So it was nice to have friends in every group. I wasn't one of those kids that hung around with one group of friends. I had a bunch of different friends.
That's awesome. Now, what's interesting is you don't know what you don't know, and so I was in theater as well. I've written, produced, and directed plays, and you never know when you're looking at a fellow thespian. So that's really
crazy.
Cool.
I was just talking to a friend of mine. Actually, he was a teacher. I never had him I was never one of his students. He started teaching middle school when I was in high school, and he's now retired. Runs our community theater program, which were the Footlighters of Elk County. And we were just talking online, on, I think, Facebook Messenger a few weeks ago. And I said, it'd be great to just come back and do a play. And he said, well, just pick what you want to do. But he said, you understand, you have to come back to Pennsylvania for 3 months to do it. It's like, yeah, right now is probably not a good time, but at some point in my life, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much of a commitment live theater is. I mean, that 2 or 3 months it takes every bit of that to really fine tune the show itself, not just the blocking, but like line memorization becomes the easiest part.
Oh,
it's
that's true,
it's
yeah.
actually performing and getting it right on cue.
If it's community theater, everyone has a job. So that means that rehearsals don't start till 7 o'clock at night. So you're rehearsing from 7 to, they're probably scheduled 7 to 10, and it's usually 11, 11:30 by the time you're done. And then, you have to go home and do family stuff and go to bed and get up and work the next morning.
And do it again.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite play? Like, what did you enjoy the
Nobody's
most?
asked me that question, I don't think, ever. And I've done a lot of interviews. Probably, I think probably the most fun I had doing a play is I played Murray the cop in The Odd Couple,
That's
which was a
awesome.
blast.
Yeah.
And then probably, I think maybe the biggest show that we ever did is our community. That was in high school. That was my senior year of high school. And then our community theater did Camelot
Oh, nice.
and West Side Story. So we did a couple big musicals with singing and dancing. If you look at me now, you would never think that I could dance,
No, you could cut a
but
rug.
back then I could
You
do
can cut a rug. So I did Two Gentlemen from Verona. I did a German play called Rosenstrasse, where I had to play a young soldier guarding the door. That was my big claim to fame. I got to point this like double barrel right at this group of ladies, and I had to like stand my ground, and they ran me over. And then I made a lot of really good lifelong friends in theater doing the show Meet Me in St. Louis.
it.
Meet Me in St. Louis. My friend EJ Ford, he lives in Tennessee now. He was our train conductor.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Angela Petty, like that was like one of the leads in my play, Beautiful Insanity. Like it's funny how you get involved in something, and I never thought I would do theater. I really like there was no precursor. I was never in like another organization. I actually didn't do plays until I hit college.
Oh, very cool.
I was a drama director in church, and then I moved over to doing an actual like auditioning for that play, Meet Me in St. Louis.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I was a very minor character. Don't like it's not like it's not all roses. Okay, a lot of hard work and a lot of fun though. So let's go. So we talked about a little bit of moving into high school with the sports and with acting. What happens after school? Like when we graduate, what happened in life? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
So, did my undergrad at Penn State. Always had in the back of my mind that I was going to go into medicine in some form. My mom worked for one of the local family doctors in town, and like I said, it's a small town. When I was there, when I was back in Ridgeway as a high school kid, we probably had about 8,500 people in town because of the way industry goes and factories closing and things like that. It's probably down to about 4,500 now. It's pretty desolate. Town's kind of the main street. A lot of the stores have closed, and they're doing kind of the people moving in and doing antique stores and brew pubs and making it more kind of like a vacation spot. They do a big called the Woodcutters Rendezvous, where they have people come chainsaw carving and stuff. They do it every February. So the town's changing, but my mom worked for this family doctor that was in his 60s, I think, when I was in high school, and she worked for him for a long time. So I always had an interest in going into medicine. So I went to Penn State and studied my ass off, and then got accepted into medical school. Spent 4 years in Philadelphia in medical school, and then Chicago for 5 years for residency, and then stayed in Chicago for a long time to practice.
Now, a lot of people assume, and forgive my ignorance, but the only thing that we get is doctors on TV. Okay, and we look at people, from old school shows like ER and Grey's Anatomy, things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we get the painted version. What was it really like to be in medical school and then to be in residency? Like, was it as difficult as it looks?
Yeah, it's actually changed. It's and I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to listen to this and probably come back and attack me, but it's probably easier now than it was back when I did it. I mean, I did it almost 30 years ago, and it was hard. It was, your first medical school. I mean, yeah, medical school's tough, but it's still just school. So it's, getting up in the morning and going to class and then studying your ass off at night and preparing, for tests and practicals and things like that. And I've always been driven, so I did end up being valedictorian in my medical school class. And part of that was studying hard, and part of that was probably just being blessed with the ability to take a test. And I knew that I wanted to do orthopedics, and orthopedic surgery residencies are hard to get. Back then, they were saying that it was about 50 applicants for every one spot. So you had to be close to the top of your class, and I knew that, so I worked really hard. And then once you get into residency, then it gets hard in a different way, because back then we did every third night in the hospital. So, if you got up Monday morning and worked 12 or 14 hours, and then you got up Tuesday morning and you worked 12 to 14 hours, and then you got up Wednesday morning and worked 12 to 14 hours, and then stayed in the hospital overnight and worked another 12 hours, and then were expected to be at work the following day to work another 12 to 14 hours. Mm-hmm. And so it was long. It was long days that just kind of all flowed into each other. They've changed that now, that you can't work. If you work overnight, you have to have the next day off. They've kind of changed those rules because I think it was important. I think there's no way that you're as sharp at hour 50 as you are at hour 1. So I think it's important that they did that.
I was just about to ask that question because, man, I mean, you hear people talking about working, and a lot of it's not just medical. A lot of our first responders have the same type of schedules.
24 hours on and mandatory overtime.
Just so much. And you've got to be at your best. And we're expecting you at your best. Right?
Lives matter.
Yeah. If we're going to have a chance, we need you to be sharp in every aspect. So I appreciate them, making some changes to that.
There's a doctor for right now. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's at the University of Chicago. He's an anesthesiologist, and he was one of the first ones to kind of push to make changes, and he actually developed a program. I guess similar to now what we have with AI, but he developed a program where he could put one of his residents at the head of a surgical bed with a fake patient, and had all the surgical monitors were on, and the heart rate would change, or the blood pressure would change, or the respirations would change, or the oxygen sats would change, and the resident had to respond to those changes that were coming up on the screens and give the appropriate medication or turn down the ventilator, or just make changes as that patient was going through surgery. And he did the study where he was doing people that had just freshly woken up, had breakfast, came in, sat down at the head of a surgery bed, and how their response was compared to somebody that has been up for 60 hours.
Wow.
And he proved that it wasn't safe to be that patient at 60 hours. Mm. And I think that's where some of the changes came by, that now there's rules in place that residents can't stay awake for 3-4 days in a row and try to take care of patients. And back when I was there, it was like, well, your attendings would say, well, we did it, you're expected to do it.
Yeah.
And so, and I think there's still some that are there are some that are that way, that still think that we're the people that are coming out now are kind of pansies compared to doctors of old. That it's way safer for the patient.
Why medicine?
Wow, great question. I think, watching my mom's boss and seeing what he was doing, and seeing, how in a small town he was, changing people's lives. And then, I played football a lot of years and had a few injuries, and then seeing, the orthopedic surgeons that were taking care of athletes and seeing what they were doing. And it just pushed me down that road. And I'm grateful because I've been able to do a lot of great things with the skills that I learned in medical school and residency, and with the talents that God gave me.
Now, I've heard a little bit, but I definitely want to dive into that part. That's a great segue. When you talk about like your love for medicine and love for what you're able to help people with, what did that do on the philanthropic side? Like I know you've traveled a lot and you've helped a lot of people. Just tell us what that experience was and what that looks and feels like.
So you never know what's going to happen or who's going to walk into your life at what point. And so I just started my practice south of Chicago, a little town called Joliet, which a lot of people have heard of because it's where the prison was, and it's where Aykroyd and Belushi shot their movie, so
Yes.
the Blues Brothers. So I was practicing in Joliet and got affiliated, kind of, I was brought up Catholic and part of the Catholic Church, and kind of got soured by that, just politics and things that go on with organized religion, and fell away from organized religion for a long time. And then my wife at the time had a medical issue, and we decided that maybe we should go to church and pray. And so we found a local church called Parkview Christian Church, just outside of Chicago in the southwest suburbs. And we went and started going every Sunday, and was talking to a lady there, and she was the head of their missions program. And she said, well, we really could use somebody like you on our missions team, and we have a trip coming up to Panama. We would love you to go. And I said, I think that'd be awesome. I'd love to go. And so got involved with them and had this trip to Panama scheduled. And as everything in life goes, a wrench got thrown into that plan. Panamanian government stepped in and said, we don't want you to come down here because we think you're going to steal patients away from the Panamanian doctors, which was just ludicrous to think that was really what was going to happen. And, we were going down to do free work for people that couldn't afford it. The last thing we wanted to do was steal work from the local doctors. But they pretty much said, you can come down, but you can't practice medicine. And with about 3 weeks left, we reorganized the trip and ended up going to Haiti. And so that was my first of 26 trips to Haiti. If you walk down the back hallway of my office, there's 11 by 14 pictures lining both walls, and it's essentially just faces. It was pictures I took on a cell phone during my trips down there, and I really ended up falling in love with the people there, and was able to help put an operating room in one of the clinics down there. And there were years that I was going down there 3 or 4 times a year to do procedures and help a team see patients, and it really it lit a fire in me about being able to give back. God blessed me with a talent, blessed me with a mind to remember things, and hands to do surgery, and I felt that need to be able to give back, and so started going to Haiti, and then other people would approach me and say, hey, we need some docs to go on this trip, and so I'd go on other trips. One of the other groups I got involved with was a group called Mercy Ships, and Mercy Ships would pull essentially a big, almost like a cruise ship, into a port, and would stay for a month, and essentially was a floating hospital, had operating rooms on it. And Sierra Leone, which is on the west coast of Africa, if you get caught stealing, they cut your hands off. And so they had people that were bilateral amputees. So they were cut off at the wrist, both hands. Think what that does to your life.
Yeah.
And there's a procedure called a Kruxenberg procedure where you can rewire the forearm and move the muscles, and you can make the two bones in the forearm almost like a pincher claw. And so we would go in there and we do Kruxenberg procedures for 8, 10, 12 hours a day for weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Taking care of these people that had their hands cut off because they were criminals, because they were stealing. And so it was just great to be able to just give back to the world.
There's so many times that, and we've heard this over and over, we take things for granted. And like you really never know what someone is dealing with or what someone has battled through. And it almost seems like every time that we've heard a story of a less fortunate person or someone who, especially, everybody that stole and got their hands cut off, everybody that stole didn't steal diamonds out of a jewelry store.
Yeah,
you're talking about stealing food. You're talking about stealing things that would help you just survive, right?
One was taking bananas off a neighbor's tree.
Wow. And then to lose the loss of your hands for the rest of your life until this situation arose.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, and it's crazy to think about the things. I had a mentor that said something. We were having lunch one day, and he said to me, "Jeff, remember one thing," and I've stuck to it. I mean, even to today. And he said, "If you're blessed, you need to be a blessing."
That's good.
And it's stuck. I mean, even now, it's I was in Publix night before last Sunday night. It was raining, not cold. I mean, cold for Florida, but definitely not cold. And there's a homeless guy that stays. I don't know what you would even call it. Resides somewhere near our Publix, but we see him on the corner begging almost every day. It was raining hard, so he was actually under the awning in front of the Publix. And I had walked in to buy a couple things, and Jennifer was in the Jeep and driving around the parking lot waiting for me to come out. And I came out and I saw him sitting there, and it's like, I can't just let him sit there. So put the groceries in the Jeep, told Jennifer, "Hey, I'll be right back." Went in, got a sandwich, some chips, a couple drinks, put it in a bag, and came out and at least told him, "Hey, it's cold and wet, but at least we can get your belly filled."
Yeah.
So just, it's little things like that. Jennifer and I were talking last night that her mom was making a big deal. I hope her mom doesn't listen to this. Her mom was making a big deal about Christmas celebration and how Jennifer's brothers, we couldn't all get on the same page of what day and where it was going to be and this and that. And we're going to try to do something on the 23rd. And she said, "Well, they all said the 24th would be better." And Jennifer said, "Well, we have the 24th as a family, we do the same thing." And she said, "We're not willing to change that, even for family, even to celebrate Christmas for family." She said, "We go to church, we get takeout Chinese food, and then we take bags with a pair of socks, a hat, mittens, and some food, and we drive around. We start about 10 o'clock, and we drive around Ocala looking for people that are on the streets." And we've been doing that for years. Yeah. And we're not going to change it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And
last year was cold.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, we always talk about family first. We say that saying so many times. But when you have something that's that powerful and it's helping that many people, I also think that family needs to kind of understand that this is part of who we are and what we've kind of pledged to ourselves to do to give back. So, I mean, I don't see any problem in that.
We look at it as, God gave us His greatest gift on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
We should give back that night as well.
That's really good. I think everything with a purpose at that level Like if you're truly blessed to be a blessing, then you're willing to do what others aren't willing to do.
That's it.
So I definitely applaud you guys for adding that to just your family. That's just what you guys do.
That's what we do.
A lot of people give throughout the year in different ways, and I'm sure you give in many other ways as well.
Yeah, we do.
You don't give on Christmas Eve, and that's the only day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Helping through this ministry of medicine, and then at the same time, coming, always being rooted, and then coming. What brought you to Ocala, Florida?
I don't even know if I want to say this on a podcast. The honest reason is I was chasing after a woman. I had met. Was going through a divorce and had met an old friend from high school who, back in high school, really didn't have the time for me. I don't know, for some reason thought she was better than I was. The cheerleader type.
Yeah.
And
I think we've all had that
yeah. And so we started talking, and we had hung out a few times and made trips so we could see. She was in Pennsylvania. I was living back in the Chicago area. We had made some trips back and forth, and then she announced that her parents were in Ocala, Florida, and they were in their 80s, and she was thinking about moving to Florida to be closer to her parents. And I was at a time in my life that I could easily move, and I was getting tired of the cold and the snow, and so I sold 2 practices that I had, and decided that I would move to Ocala, Florida, essentially chasing after her, and then moved down here and realized that she was batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And then, but decided that I still liked Florida, so I stayed. And luckily, because then within about 2 months of breaking up with her, met my wife Jennifer. And so
that's amazing. And it doesn't matter what brought you here.
Right.
You're here.
Yeah.
God had to get you here somehow.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I'm saying? And you could have figured your own reason, but you got here. And then to find your wife and to see how happy you guys are now, like that's just, that's a love story for the ages. So then.
And that's kind of crazy because if I hadn't met Jennifer, I would have never met you.
Very true. Very true.
Because Jennifer was good friends with your ex-wife.
Yeah.
And,
like those degrees of separation.
Yeah, it's that whole, what is it, Kevin Bacon, or what's the whole 7 degrees of, and there's a whole Hollywood thing, I don't remember. I think it's 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like everybody can, within 7 degrees, can get back to Kevin Bacon.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Regen, okay? Because I've been very, very thankful to kind of get to know you guys better, see a little bit about what you do. We don't want to delve into everything, but I want to know, number one, what do you love most about your practice now? And then what product really made you say, I'm all in for this?
Yeah. I guess once again, it goes back to, you never know who God's going to put into your life on the day that it happens. And you don't know where that path is going to lead. And in 2002, I wake up in the morning and I get in my car and I drive to the hospital, and a guy by the name of Dwayne Pineda is my orthopedic rep. So he's the guy that brings the hip and knee replacements into the operating room on days that I'm doing surgery. And he rolls this machine into the OR and doesn't really explain much about it. He just says, hey, we have this new device, and while you're doing surgery, anesthesia can draw some blood, and they're going to spin it, and at the end, we're going to give you a small vial of fluid that's really high in bone morphogenic protein, or BMP. And I thought, hey, this is cool. And so just for a side, BMP is what helps bone regrow. So if we were putting bone graft around a fracture that wasn't healing or bone graft around a joint replacement, we could mix this stuff in with our bone graft and it'll make our bone graft work better. And so I was all for it. It's like, great. He said, who's paying for this? First big question. Even back 2002, medicine was getting corporate. So, if it was going to cost the hospital something, they probably didn't want it. And you never wanted to increase the patient's bill unnecessarily. So they said, no, nobody's going to pay for it. We want you. You're one of our good docs. You've done a lot of work with us. And we want you to just try it out and see how it works. And so we started doing this, and surprisingly, it worked. Stuff that was taken maybe 4 to 6 months to heal was healing in 3 to 4 months. And so it was taking time off of people's rehabilitation and the time that they were off work and allowing them to get back to a normal lifestyle faster. And so it was really interesting to watch these patients getting better. And there was a group of us that were interested in this little vial of yellow fluid. And when they first described it to us, they didn't call it platelet-rich plasma. They just told us it was this fluid that was rich in bone morphogenic protein. And as we started investigating what it is, and realized that it's platelet-rich plasma, is what we know it as today. We started pushing the envelope. At least several of us did. So we started injecting, instead of just adding it to bone graft, injecting it on the edges of our rotator cuff repairs. Or if we did a meniscus repair, we'd inject the edges of the meniscus repair with it. And people were healing faster. And so around 2006, 2007, I asked the company if they would allow me to have a second device to put in my office. And then I started injecting people in the office, things like tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, rotator cuff tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis. And these patients were getting better. And so 2009, late in 2008, I had, for lack of a better description, a midlife crisis. I had my billing girl came in with a piece of paper and slipped it in front of me, and she said, "Don't kill the messenger." And I looked at the paper, and one of the insurance companies had paid me $875 for a knee replacement. And I said, this can't be true. I mean,
that's
really
a major situation.
Can't be true.
Yep.
I mean, it's something that, I don't know, we probably billed the insurance $6,000 to $7,000 for, and it's 2 hours in the operating room, and then 90 days of care after the surgery. That's all included in that bill. And I said, it can't be $875. And she said, no, I called them. It truly is. And I called them and talked to them, and then I had to soul search, because I was thinking, if it continues like this and we continue to allow this to happen, medicine's going to go downhill fast. And so I decided on January 1st of 2009 that I was going to get out, that I was going to change the way I practice medicine. No longer take insurance, no longer do surgery, no longer look at the traditional ways of healing patients, but look at this new stuff that we had called platelet-rich plasma, and how we could do that, not to put a Band-Aid over a problem, but to truly heal the problem and make people's lives better. And so I devoted the next 3 years to investigating it more and opening this practice where we were only going to regenerate tissue. We weren't going to remove it, replace it, give them a pill to take the symptoms away. If we look at our healthcare now, in this day and age, and I'm sure this is going to anger some physicians that listen to this, but we really don't practice healthcare. we practice sick care, because if you have diabetes, for the most part, your doctor's going to give you either an injection or a pill to take care of the symptoms. They're not going to talk to you about changing your lifestyle, losing weight, and eating better, and reducing your sugar intake, and try to get you off the medicines. If you have arthritis, they're not going to talk about making the arthritis better. They're going to talk about giving you a pill to take the inflammation down, take the pain away, and then eventually at some point replace the joint that's arthritic. Nobody talks about rebuilding the cartilage and stopping the arthritis, and that can be done now. And so we don't practice healthcare. We practice just taking care of the symptoms of the sick. And so it's taken a long time to answer your question, what is Regenercala? So Regenercala is using the body's own healing potential. So using either platelet-rich plasma or stem cells that we can pull out of fat, and injecting them in places in the body, whether it's to reverse or stop arthritis, to heal a rotator cuff, to heal a tendon injury, to regrow hair, to using the aesthetics field to make the face look younger, make the breasts look younger, for sexual health for men with erectile dysfunction or women that have stress urinary incontinence. These are all things that if you go to a traditional doctor and follow traditional medicine, there's pills for it. If you have ED, your doctor can give you Viagra and it'll take care of your ED. But you have to use Viagra every time you want to have sex for the rest of your life. But there are injections that can be done to reestablish blood flow to the penis, so you don't need the pills anymore, that you're reversing the pathology and making people better. Or maybe it's not even an injection, maybe it's just reestablishing a man's testosterone level. You know, men go through a type of menopause that we call andropause, probably in our 40s, and we start losing our testosterone levels, and we can't think and we can't focus, and we lose muscle mass, and we get depressed, and our libido goes down, and all we need is a little testosterone. And so what we deal with now is, instead of just giving somebody a pill, same thing, women with stress incontinence. If a woman is, wants to exercise, and every time she exercises, she leaks a little urine, she's just going to stop exercising. Yeah. Because there's a big surgery you could do to help. We could do a bladder sling to lift the bladder up and help with that. And there's pills that you can take, but the pills have been shown to cause dementia. And so you don't want that. And so rather than have a big surgery or take a pill that causes dementia, they just live with it. They put a pad in their panties, and if they leak a little bit, they leak a little bit, and they stop exercising. But there's an injection that can help that. And so that's what we do. We do everything we can to help rebuild tissue. And our slogan is to make you a better you. We want people to be the best person they can be, both physically, mentally, spiritually. And that's our goal.
That's so good. And you can feel that. You can feel that when you walk into the office. You can feel that just having a conversation, whether it's at the front desk with Jen or whether it's a one-on-one with you. You can feel that you're there to help and not just mask the symptoms anymore. So I really, really appreciate that. We're gonna need to have a whole Regen show and just literally break down each one of these pieces.
Awesome. I can bring in. We have 2 practitioners that work with us. The way our practice is set up is I've been doing this for a lot of years, and now I've kind of been able to pass it off to 2 really, really good practitioners that essentially do the procedures in the office for me. It would love to come in and bring Juliet is a plastic surgeon that works for us, and she also very interested in health and wellness. And then Sandra is a nurse practitioner that's very, very well trained as an injector, and we'd love to bring them in.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that. Well, I want to definitely thank you, Dr. Jeff, for taking your time, telling us your story, just getting to know you a little bit better, because everybody thinks it's just handed. Everybody thinks you're a doctor. There was no journey. You only do it for this or that, the other. They don't really know the story behind the people that you've helped and your heart behind it. So I've definitely enjoyed that part today. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. I just want to throw one more thing out there because I should have talked about. So during my time in Haiti, I met a young man. This is kind of a plug, so I'll preface it that it is a plug. I met a man by the name of John, and John, on my first trip there, Pastor Larry that ran the mission in Haiti and ran the clinic. He assigned John to me, and John was probably 15 or 16 at the time. He said, he's going to be your translator. So John spoke very good Creole, very good English. And so John stayed by my side every time I was down there. He would translate for patients. And if I was asked to speak at church or at one of the Catholic churches or wherever, John was always the person that was with me. And John kept me out of trouble a couple times. And as far as being a very large, bald white man in Haiti, I snuck out pretty well. And occasionally some thugs would want to give us trouble, and John was always able to get us out of trouble. And so John was always my translator. And John has grown to be a great man, a pastor in Haiti, and he had gotten married and had a beautiful daughter named Martha. And he was pregnant. His wife was pregnant with their second child, and his wife died during childbirth. And I had tried several times in the past to bring John to the United States and was never able. A passport in Haiti is very, very expensive, and it's very hard to get a Haitian national to come to the United States. Very costly. And about 5 years ago, John ran into another nurse named Tracy. Tracy lives up in Vermont, and Tracy and Tracy fell in love with John the same way I did. Just thought he was an amazing young man, and not even young anymore. John's probably in his 40s, but just an amazing man. And Tracy talked to her husband and said, we need to bring John to America. And so they had started on it, and then Tracy and I just ended up meeting up on Facebook because I realized that she was friends with John, and then found out what she was doing. And so we've come together. And initially, John was going to go to Vermont, but a Haitian man in the snow probably isn't going to go very well. So I've decided that Ocala might be a better place. And I know there's 3 Haitian churches here in Ocala. So we've started a GoFundMe page. It's going to cost us about $30,000 to bring him here. And so we started a GoFundMe page. And so we're going to try to see if we can get John and his daughter Martha, who's, I think 11 now, into the United States.
That would be amazing.
If anybody's interested, either reach out to Daniel or reach out to me at Region Ocala, and we can tell you how to donate.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to add that to a post and see if we can get some traction. Yeah. And when John gets here, I'm calling it now, when John gets here, I would love to hear from you and John at the same time.
It's great.
I would love that.
There's some I can tell awesome stories. The story that I won't tell the story. I'll just dangle it out there. But he'll tell the story about the night that we were invited to a dinner to celebrate me, and he looks at me and he says, "Doc, they're serving cat."
Gotcha.
So the first time, actually the only time that I've ever had cat for dinner.
Yeah. We're going to leave it as a cliffhanger. I'm not even going to ask what it tastes like. They got to watch our next episode to know that. Very good. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for spending your time with us. Check out Dr. Jeff at Regen Ocala, and we would love to hear back from you guys. So if you have comments or questions for Dr. Jeff, throw them in the comments. We'll make sure we try to get to all those. And remember that love wins, period.